It is Monday, September 6th, 2021. What is it, 10:44 p.m.? How would you know? You don't know. Um, but I'm asking you anyway. So, what am I doing here? Let me just start making my bed, and I'll tell you how my day went. No, I can't do two things at once. I'll try a little bit. Okay, so this morning, what did I do? What did I do this morning? My battery's gonna die. I should probably try to charge this. Where's my charger? Oh my god, I'm falling apart here. But I need to do this because you guys love it. Because I've gone from like, I don't know, $10 a month on YouTube to currently it's up to like $24.62 a month. So this is obviously a hit. You guys love hearing my daily summaries. Okay, so I woke up around 7:30 this morning, and then I was like, "Ugh," but I'm still tired. But I was like, "Well, that's like 8 hours, so I should just get up." But I'm like, okay, you know what I'll do? I'll pick up my phone for a second. And hold on. Now we're charging. Now we're charging the phone. Okay, so um, I wound up not getting up but I'm like, oh, I need to get up and write because I got to do some copywriting, and I am going to play tennis at 11 a.m. But so I was on the bed, and I'm like, oh, I can do an hour soon. Anyways, so then finally at like 10:30, I'm like, oh, I better write, and so I'm trying to write a bit, and then went up and had some breakfast, and then it's like 11. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go. And then my dad's like, do you want to go somewhere? Because I want to get out of the house. I'm like, all right, you could drive me to the tennis. So we went to this park, which is beautiful. It's like over this bridge, and it's this idyllic little community. I was like, what? But then it was noon. And so then I'm looking for this tennis court, and gonna get on my phone and go, where are you guys? But then Julia yells, Josh. I'm like, oh, she saw me, and it's good because she doesn't have data on her phone, apparently, to save money. So I said, all right, I'm here. And she's like, oh, it's good. Like, she was obviously disappointed. She's like, I thought you weren't coming because you said you had a busy morning with your interview and everything. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even do the interview. I canceled it. Or maybe I told her that later. But anyways, she's like, it's good because there was another guy here, and he played with us because there was her and her husband and this other guy. And now you're here to replace him. I'm like, okay. And so we just started hitting the ball a bit. And then her husband, I can't remember his name, he's like, you're doing pretty good, but how about just like hit sideways? Like, don't go up, don't go down. You want to hit sideways. So I did that, and I was doing really well. And Julia's like, so, I mean, what have you played before? Like, what do you play with a racket or whatever? I'm like, nothing other than ping pong 2 days ago. And she's like, oh, but you're so good. And I was like, wow. And then I was like, oh, no, I'm a tennis prodigy. Why didn't I do this for like 20, why didn't 30 years ago I start playing tennis? And I told her how my grandfather said I should play tennis instead of rugby because it's something you can play when you're old. Maybe imagine if that was my gift, or if I'd just done it every weekend, played some games and pursued it and done my comedy every night. And like, how did I waste 30 years? Like Sean just posted on social media saying, it's been 30 years since September 3rd when I started university. I'm like, ugh. Anyways, God help me. God. All right. So then, but then we played for like 10 minutes, and then it's looked like it was going to rain. So we had to pack up and got to the car just as it started raining. And so, what's his name? Khaled. He took his own car, and then the girl, Julia, and her husband were like, oh, do you want to get some food? And I'm like, all right. So we drove to the Lansdowne Park and tried some restaurants, and they were like, it's an hour wait. And I said, well, what about the little gelato place? And they're like, oh, okay, down there. Yeah. So yeah, we went there and got a little mini pizza. And then, okay, so I just told this story to my niece and nephew on my gratitude call with them. I said, because they said, what did you get at the gelato place? I'm like, wow, I actually have a story. So the guy, I've got my mask on, so it might be hard to hear, but and Julie had already asked, do you have panini? He's like, no. So I said, well, what do you got? You got the mini pizza, which is what the husband got, and you've got hot dog, which is what I got like last time I was there. And I'm like, so is it only the two options? He's like, you want two pizza? I'm like, no, is it only the two options? Like, what, do you want two pizza, or do you want pizza and a hot dog? I'm like, I'm just wondering if you, anyway, fine, I'll get pizza and a hot dog. but I didn't want two things, but because he said it, and I'm like, now it's in my head. I'm like, I guess that'll be filling because they were only $3.99 each. So now I've got these two things. Then I went out and told Julia and husband why I had both and the whole story. They're like, oh, so like he tricked you, and I'm like, or no, I think I said I got tricked, and they're like, I don't think he tricked you. He just couldn't hear you, like 'cause he had a mask on, and then the husband kept saying, well, he obviously didn't have a third thing. I think he was saying this later to me. He's like, if he had a third thing, then he would have said it. Like you kept asking, but that's your mistake. You kept asking. You shouldn't have asked. You should have just gotten the one thing. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I don't think it was like this evil plan. I think it's the English or the mask or whatever. But I should have had the guts to just say, I don't want, like, no, I don't want a pizza and a hot dog. I'm ordering whatever, which one of them? I don't know. But then I told them the story about how yesterday when I got the cinnamon buns, and it was supposed to be 50% off, but it was only one day, so it's only 50 cents off. And so, but I wound up getting $40 of a sandwich, smoothie, and 4 cinnamon buns and 3 cheese sticks. Like that's not what I went in for, but I was too lazy to just put the cinnamon buns back on the day old shelf. So then there was wasps, and I tried like swatting the wasps, and I was doing okay, but they kept coming after us. So then we moved over to a bench, and seemed okay. They were coming after the husband's Diet Pepsi, I think, and so then I started swatting there. Eventually, Julia was sitting at a bench far, far away, and we just joined her after getting rid of our food. But while we were still sitting there, we're talking politics, and they're pretty, yeah, against all the woke nonsense as well. And the husband's Indian, so he's allowed to have his opinions on it. And yeah, we were talking about Air Jordans and how they're still more popular. I said, they're still more popular than LeBron James's shoes. And they're like, yeah, it's a legend. And we were talking about, husband was saying, like, when you see these interviews with basketball players showing their house, they've got a whole closet for Air Jordans. And I said, I should get Air Jordans when I'm rich. And they're like, why, do you like sneakers? I'm like, no, I just figure I should do something with all the money that I will have. And then, yeah, so we just walked for a bit. I said, I'll walk you to your car. Like, oh, that's so nice. And they're like, well, you've walked us to the car now. Like, you don't have to. And I'm like, no, I want the I want to maximize my friendship here. And and then they're like, well, you walked us to the car. We should drive you home. I'm like, no, I want some exercise and stuff. So it was nice. It was good. And then, what happened? I guess Khaled, when we were getting into the car originally at the tennis place, he was like, "Are you coming to the event, like the bar?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "The woman she organized. She said she asked you." I'm like, "What? Who? Merle? What?" So I looked after they left everybody, and I was like looked up Merle, and I found this thing where she said, "Hey, I've organized a thing at a Chuck's Roadhouse. This is a few days ago, I guess, on Monday. Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "How do you know me from?" She's like, "Oh, from the Ottawa Singles 40 Plus group." I'm like, "Sure." And she's like, "I'm in the tribe with you, same tribe, so that means we're both Jewish." Yeah, so I think, where did I go to sit with my phone for a bit? I started walking, and then I knew the phone was going to die. I was like, maybe I should charge it over at Kettleman's, but there's a very large guy sitting on the bench where I was normally going to sit and charge it. So I kept walking, and I just sort of walked home, I guess. And I thought I better do my copywriting anyways. But I probably sat somewhere for a bit. I think on a rock or a step. Yeah, like a little wall or something. And I was just going through my phone, messaging people. And then got home, and I'm like, okay, got to do my writing. And then I was messaging with Khaled, and he's like, "Are you coming to this thing?" I'm like, "I guess." He's like, "Well, we don't have to." I'm like, "No, let's just do it." So he said, "I'll get you 5." So then at like 4:15, the VP at the agency was like, "Any updates?" I'm like, "Give me half an hour." So then at 1:45, I emailed him some stuff and had some trouble with the files. He's like, "Convert it to doc." And I'm like, "All right." So I haven't heard back yet, so I guess that's all right. And then, yeah, so I went outside, 5:12, Khaled picks me up, and yeah, we drive. So when did I find, oh, so I was in the car, and he's like, "I'm new to the city and everything." I said, "So where are you from?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm actually Palestinian." I was like, "Oh," because I had just talked a lot about how I'm Jewish and stuff. I was probably talking about Jewish singles groups or something. And then we got to the place, and then Merle is like, yeah, Josh is in the tribe, and look at this, Palestinian between two Jews, ha ha ha. She kept talking about it. It was quite ha ha. But then later in the meal, Lori was sort of chiding him. She's like, "What was that thing you posted about? Like, I wish I could rip people's eyes out or something. And he's like, shh. Like, I don't know how sensitive these two are. I said, pretty sensitive. And okay, never mind. I'm like, oh, great. Great. But we didn't talk about politics. And yeah, so we just hung out. She was expecting 17 women, but only 2 showed up and stuff. So I started posting. I took a selfie with the group and I started posting it in the neighborhood groups and all the singles groups and in my short notice group. So a lot of people were liking it and saying, oh, if I'd known earlier, I'd come. And I said, okay, well, everybody join my short notice group and I'll keep you posted. So yeah, we've got 5 new members of that group, and I guess we'll get more people out. But they were all saying it's such a good idea. It's so lonely these days. And so yeah, they like my idea of just having friends and stuff. So and I think it's different. It's different than the singles groups, because that's a lot of pressure, singles groups. And I'm just like, yeah, it's short notice meetups. And they're like, it's such a good idea, because like sometimes you just want to get together. I'm like, yes. So I'm brilliant. And then yeah, I got a steak and potato and what are we talking? I don't know, people were bashing Trudeau, and I don't know. I spent a lot of time sort of looking at my phone, so I don't know exactly what we talked about. And then, but it was a good time, and then Brian, the general manager, came over. Merle had booked the reservation with him, and he's like, if you guys enjoyed the meal and the service and everything, could you please do a Google review? I said, I've been doing Google reviews, and they keep saying like 5,000 views on your photos and stuff. He's like, oh, that's great. So yeah, he wants to bring it up on the level, like on the Google ratings, and he's asked the servers to help or whatever. And that was it. Then Khaled drove me back, and then we went to Merle's car, and just some charity gave her a bunch of water bottles, like with hockey teams on them, and that I guess they just didn't need them or something. So she's been giving this away. Like, she literally keeps them in her car beside her and hands them to people like outside the car. And then she was yelling to 2 young men like, "Hey, you want a water bottle?" And so I've got like 5 of them now. It's pretty funny. And she was asking like, "Isn't your grandfather? Did he work for the Ontario School Board?" I'm like, "No, that's my dad." She's like, "Oh, wow, I keep forgetting. I can't believe that you're like over 40. I'm like, "Well, that's great. See, maybe I should just embrace my youthfulness and just stop complaining about my age and stuff." And so I do feel better. When I was out playing tennis, I felt good. Was in this idyllic park, and when I was out with the friends, I felt good. Especially being with people who are older than me, so I don't feel so bad. And yeah, so I just got to keep doing stuff like that. And then yeah, he drove me home, and then I walked in, and my mom's like, "Hello," and I'm like, and they were watching the Rosh Hashanah services on the computer. But then I noticed on my phone that I'd missed a call 18 minutes ago from my sister. So I'm like, oh, it's the gratitude call. So I texted her, and she said, well, when's the service end? Like, and my parents said 9, but they're like, you don't have to watch this. I'm like, this was 8:45. So I said, okay, I'm coming. And then I came downstairs, and I think I called them, but I was looking for my charger. And then, yeah, the kids were doing they were in the middle of a little play, or they say, you got to watch the end of the play. Like, they would have 2 cows talking to each other, and my sister's like, no, just do your gratitude. And I came up with an idea. I said, well, why don't you guys combine the 2 and have your cows tell us the gratitude, like on your behalf? And they were both like, yeah. So then Ayla had the cow saying, Ayla is grateful for this and for her hair, and grateful for getting married. Oh, no, that's me. Because the cows in the play had just gotten engaged and got married, and then what did Ayla say? She's like, remember we dated 2 years ago? Now I'm having a baby. It was a whole thing. Although they just got engaged a minute ago, so I guess the dream doesn't make, or the play doesn't make any sense. And then yeah, so they went through that, and then Elon did his with his cow, and I said, that was great, coward. And he's like, I'm not a coward. I'm like, no, Ayla. And Naomi's like, Ayla named the cow Coward. It's like, it's my cow's named Black, and like, I name things after the color they are. And I'm like, okay. And then he jumped off the bed in his Batman outfit. I'm like, look, you're Batman. And then he was going to bed. He's like, no, I need to be close to the phone so Uncle Josh can see me because the lights are off now. I'm like, no. I can imagine. I know you're in bed. And Naomi was like, yes, like Uncle Josh wants to see that you're in the darkness. I said, yes, darkness is very important for sleep. I cover up all the lights in hotel rooms when I'm trying to sleep. And then that was it, basically. And then I decided, well, maybe I'm a little hungry. So I went up to the kitchen and I ate these 4 cheese garlic bread things that a woman at the table was just like, the waiter took it. I'm like, you're going to throw those out? And then just the waiter handed them back to me, or waitress. Trans woman. So it gets confusing. And then that's it. Now I'm in bed. So tomorrow. Try to get up. I think I was supposed to do an interview with the woman today at 11, and I emailed or messaged her on LinkedIn to say let's move it. So, got to catch up interviews. Got to film a keyboard review. Got to start doing some music with that guitar. Got to post like I don't know vlogs from the past couple of months. Then got to go back a year and start posting my comedy. Lots to do, and I just want to get it all done because I just saw an Instagram post today from somebody sharing Mel Robbins' thing, and she's like, if you're feeling down, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody cares. Nobody's doing anything. It's all you, and if you don't do it now, you're losing time every day. So I don't want to lose time any day. Like yesterday was kind of a waste, and I was tired. Just got to keep doing stuff. And then Merle was saying she forgets what she did each day, and I said I just heard that in a podcast, like 40s, 50s, you forget what's going on. That's why I do these things, to try to have a record of things and stuff. But also, I mean, it doesn't matter that much what I did each day, because unless it's all interesting and I just won an Oscar or something, it's like, it's the regular crap, going to restaurants and stuff. But I still appreciate having some kind of record. And I appreciate you guys watching. So hope you had a good day. Leave your comments below if you want to let me know what you guys did today. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.